Hello everyone, Lozo Killers here, and today we're gonna review some combat model from 2002, and this is gonna be the two Bohrok Kaita. So we're gonna review the two in the same video, and so we're gonna begin with the ZA Kaita. So it's called the Bohrok Kaita ZA, and it's used three of the Bohrok, of course. So it's used Bohrok, Tanok, and Nuvok. So of course it's really kind of tall. So I maybe have to adjust my camera, so excuse me, add some book. And I think we're almost done, right here. And that's quite perfect. So here we go. Oh, excuse me, you have some book cover. So how it works, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm going to explain this part by part, I think, even if it's kind of hard to disassemble it. So first of all, we've got the legs section right here, which you can see is made with multiple arms or legs parts from the Bohrok. The two parts are not linked together, which is kind of weird, but it's still useful to pose this. So of course, it's kind of better than, for example, the Bohrok Kaita, the first one, which were really hard to pose. As you can clearly see this time, I can make him bend. Oh, excuse me. Of course, sometimes it's kind of weak, but usually, as you can clearly see, I can pose him. So it's quite nice. Also, the feet are made simply with some Bohrok feet and the corner holder right here. And apart from that, that's quite all. So the body section, it's quite hard to explain. So I'm maybe just gonna do a little turnaround of the set. It really wants to fall, of course. So yeah, we're gonna begin the body section with this part, which we have from the Bohrok head. As you can clearly see, there's black parts. And then we're gonna continue with some Bohrok body parts right here in red, and also then this part will be linked with the shoulder parts, which are made with some Bohrok feet, and which will be linked with the arm. We're gonna talk about the arm later. For the body section, it's not really finished because we're gonna add these two parts to fill the hole. So the Nuvok shield, excuse me, and then we're gonna add also this part right here to cover the hole, which is of course the Bohrok top part, I can say so, and this is the details, and also some corner right here with the rubber band to hold it. And that's quite all for the body part. Yes, and you also have this part on the back, which are in fact just Bohrok arms, which will be useful, of course, to link the. Yes, in fact, yes, it's useful to link the Bohrok head, if I can so, and the Bohrok head, if I, the head of the Kaita model, in fact, it's just on a Bohrok body frame, as you can clearly see, it's just Nuvok, but without his arm, so it is limbless, and of course the gimmick still works, so the two gimmicks like this, and of course like that, to open and to launch the corner. And I think that's quite all for all the body section. Then we're going to talk about the arms, which are made with some Bohrok arms, and of course with some little details like this Bohrok shields. And here we go for the arms. It's on a ball joint. It's on a, excuse me, this part of the arms is made, as you can see, with Bohrok body parts. And then some Bohrok shield for the hands. The little stuff to notice is that, as you can clearly see, this time it uses a long axle, which is really ugly, and on the other side it uses an axle of 3, which is quite nice. This is explained because, of course, in the Bohrok set, you do not have, there are just not enough parts like this, so they have to use this part. So this is why it's asymmetrical and kind of ugly, but of course you can mod it and just put a part of axle of 3 right here. And that's quite all. So for that question, it has two ball joints, as you can clearly see on the arm, so you can still turn this in some direction, like this or like that, for example. So it's quite nice. It's really more articulated than the body, the Bohrok Kaita, the first Bohrok Kaita. And then, of course, it is not that perfect. And I think that's quite all. So the only little problem I have with this set maybe is the fact that they choose to really take all the body part for the head. Maybe I would have maybe just hide this lower part, because it really look like you got a body and then you just add the Bohrok like that on it, and it's kind of look misplaced, if I can say so. so it kind of look weird, and I maybe just have yes try to hide this part in the body section, but well, it's not the case, so you have to do with that. And yes, of course, also there is ton of axle which stands out, like this one for example, and also this one, because they are not the Bohrok do not have the white axle, if I can say so. But apart from that, it's quite interesting, I think, even if it has some flaws, and it's not that perfect with the asymmetrical part if you build from the Bohrok section. But it's still better articulated than the Bohrok Kaita, which is quite nice, and it's also quite tall, so it's okay in my opinion. And then we're gonna talk about the second Kaita. So of course this model are canon. In fact, all the combiner I show you in my reviews are canon to the story, apart if I mention otherwise. So for example, the Chihuahua Cabaya was not official and was not canon. But this one are of course canon, and I think they form in fact in the storyline. We're gonna talk about the second one, which as you will see is in fact quite different than the first one. But the lower part, in fact, is the same. So you can clearly see the legs are exactly the same. Apart that they use an axle of 4 white ears and not one of 3. But apart from that, it's the same. Even in fact, all this part, as you can clearly see, is the same. And yes, in fact, they also use the same Bohrok body part white ears. But as you can see, apart from that, it's quite different. So for example, just let me check. Yes, in fact, this time, as you can see, it's more wide on the shoulder section, because they used some Bohrok body part white ear to link the shoulder. So the shoulder are in fact quite the same. They are made with some Bohrok feet, but this time they add some top part white ear, which is kind of nice because it looks like some shoulder pad, in my opinion. The body part is kind of look empty because there is nothing in comparison to the other Kaita, which they were, as you remember, the top part, of course, but it's when it uses a shoulder, and they still use this part like this. The body section, the head part, like I said, is the same as the other one, but this time it uses the body of Levac, of course, without the arms and legs. And I think that's quite all. If you look on the back, you have also some little details right here with this gears part, and also this part. I don't really know what it's supposed to be, but it's some Bohrok arms with the little teeth. And the arms also are quite the same as the other one, but this time it's not used a Bohrok body part, but this part, but it still uses the Bohrok, as you can clearly see, and it also has the same drawback because it's used a long axle right here, so it's made it asymmetrical. But I especially like this weapon, like that, they quite look good with the two Bohrok shields, and right here with the little cutters. And I think that's quite all, and of course you have the same gimmick with that, and quite in fact the same articulation, apart that you have maybe more articulation on this section, but because it doesn't really have any purpose at all, it's not really interesting. But you can still, as you can see, try to pose him like that. Of course you can do that much pose, but it's still better than nothing, if you ask me. You can try to do some pose. And as you can see, this time they kind of better pad the body part because it's more in the body, so it does not stand out as much as the other one. And I especially like this one, so see they do a good job with the little shoulder pad section and stuff like that. Even if, again, as you can see, there is tons of axle which really stands out of the body part. But just because it doesn't have that much axle of 3, if I can say, of 3. 3, yeah, 3, yes. There's some problem with the numbers, I think. So here we go. So this was the Bohrok Kaita Jar, and we're gonna add the second one, which is the Za. So it's not really complicated with the names. It doesn't really search anything cool, I think. So there is Za and there is Ja. And of course, this one is taller because of the torso frame, if I can say so. And here we go. So what to say on this two Kaitas model? So seriously, I think they are quite nice in comparison to the Bohrok Kaita model, which were kind of not really hard to pose and stuff like that. This one are really cool because in fact they are also quite different, as you can clearly see on the torso frame, on the body frame. I can see they are really different in comparison to the Bohrok Kaita. So yes, they're quite nice, but they of course still they really got some combiner problems. Like for example, all the parts that does not really match well. Like for example, all the too long axle, if I can say so, and stuff like that. So they really got this type of problem, which really stands out, if you ask me. They really, of course, also have some other problems. Like for example, all the body frame is really bulky, and the arms are really thin because of the parts used. If you really look on the front, for example, on the front, you can clearly see it's really thin. It's really look bad. But apart from this little default, I still think they really do a good job on the overall design. They try to do different stuff with, in fact, the same parts, because you may remember that the Bohrok are all the same. They are got all the same parts. And I think they quite did a good job. They quite managed to do a nice stuff with that. Also, they are more posable than the Bohrok Kaita, so it's really a good point also. And it does not really fall off easily, so that's really also a good point, because, you know, for example, the Bohrok Kaita are also quite posable. They can also they are quite articulable, if I can say so, but they are not really that posable at all. So on this one, there is not that drawback. They are still really posable, even if, of course, the pose you can make with this one are kind of limited. But remember that they are just a combiner. So that's quite all. So I can maybe just, yes, advise you to build this one, because they are quite interesting. Maybe this technique of some construction technique are quite useful also, and maybe, even if they of course need to be improved. For example, as you can clearly see, the body frame is kind of cool, but it's full of holes. So it's up to you, I think, to kind of mod this to manage to make a better job than the designer. But of course, the designer have to do with also with some parts. They can choose to put some parts which were not in the original Bohrok. And that's why I think they did a really nice combiner, really nice Kaita in my opinion. So yes. And also one really interesting point is that they are really different. So apart from the leg section, they are quite different, and so you can choose which one you prefer. So that's all. So I hope you enjoy this video review, and if you have, of course, any comments or questions, just post them. I will answer them when I have the time, and that's all. So see you later for another Bionicle video with you. Bye bye.